Hello, my name is Zachariah with Old Man Gaming, and welcome to the first episode of Pitch or Die. What is Pitch or Die? What is this new show that we're bringing to you? Well, if you're expecting a ton of people on here or a ton of video game stuff, you probably get the wrong thing. But what I like to do, I like to pitch video game ideas out of my brain. I get them and I want to share them with the world. So I decided to kind of come up with a show that does that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a premise for the pitch. We are also going to read your comments every week. We're going to use your comments to pick the pitches if you guys so choose. Otherwise, I'll just pick them myself. And then basically, I'm going to pitch a game, pitch some sort of game that does not exist yet, be it licensed or not licensed, be it an MMO, be it games of service, whatever. I'm just going to pitch a game to you guys, something new and interesting each week. And basically, you guys get to decide whether it's a good pitch or it dies here. So you can tell me in the comments below whether you'd purchase it, whether you'd spend your money on it. It's just going to be an interesting little experiment. I love to pitch video game ideas, so that's what the show is going to be about right here. So the way this is going to work, obviously this is our first episode. We have no previous comments. We're not going to read any previous comments, but usually this would be the section where we read previous comments. So if you want to get those comments out, I will be reading them on this show, much like our podcast. Like I said, I will be using them to decide on pitches and stuff. Then, basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go into what I'm deciding to pitch, the premise of what I'm deciding to pitch. We're going to go into the developer that I have chosen, and then we're going to go into what the game is as a whole, and what I want to see out of it, and how I think it would be good. And then we'll sign off, and it'll be in you guys' hands to whether it pitches or it dies. So that being said, what are we pitching today? Well, I had made a joke about this a long time ago on one of the podcasts, and since obviously we have no comments to go off right now, I've decided to do this as our first pitch. Basically because this one is really, really hard. So yeah, we got to do it. And what is it? Well, it is Castlevania, but as an MMO. What would that look like? How would we make that successfully? An MMO or a games as service game? And this was something that basically on the podcast, my co host Neil had said, no, absolutely not. I would never try it. So I'm going to attempt to pitch something that he would try, and of course, force him to watch it, because if we're not forcing our friends to do the thing to witness our hobbies, what are we doing the hobbies for, right? Right, everybody? So, Castlevania, the series, as an MMO, as a multi user sort of situation, and what that would look like. Let's get into it. First and foremost, we got to talk developer. What developer would I put in the hands to create a Castlevania game? And I really looked at all the Castlevania games before I decided to pitch this. I mean, you have a lot of 3D phonetic, almost Devil May Cry wannabe games in the 3D ones, but those weren't super popular, so I don't necessarily think that's the way to go. If you go back to the old Nintendo ones, they're very methodical platformers. They're not fast, they're not quick. You have to really think about every action. I would almost compare them to like a Dark Soulsy thing, and I'm just talking about the first couple on a Nintendo. Because then you get into the PlayStation ones. Of course, the greatest Castlevania game ever made. That's Symphony of the Night. That is kind of in between. It has some phonetic combat, but at the same time, it is also methodical. You have to think about your actions, and it's not all about twitch reflexes. So I really had to think about this, because the other thing we have to consider is we're doing this as an online games as service. We're doing this as a multiplayer thing. Should I choose a developer that uses multiplayer, that has that experience, or should I choose a developer with experience in the platform genre? So I decided to go a little bit crazy on this one. Of course, it's our first pitch right off the bat, but I decided to pick Motion Twin, the creators of Dead Cells. Now, they'd have to change their art style a little bit. They're very pixel heavy, but their pixel heavy has actually almost got this hand-drawn quality to it that I feel like if they just leaned a little bit more into the hand-drawn quality, that would really fit the Castlevania style. And personally, I didn't like the faux 3D graphics of Ritual of the Night. I think, yeah, Ritual of the Night. So I would prefer not to do anything in that area. The other thing is they're really good at the phonetic combat, but also being methodical about it. I'm a big fan of Dead Cells, and I think the one thing we have to make sure we nail in this game is the moment-to-moment combat, because that's right, ladies and gentlemen. My MMO of Castlevania will be 2D. All right, let's go into the story, the setup. How do we make a setup for the Castlevania game? Well, if you know the story of Castlevania, basically, Dracula has his special castle, which is Castlevania. It comes back once every 100 years, and a Belmont slash vampire slayer has to go in, kill Dracula to get rid of the castle. And it's just this huge megalithic thing, which is monsters coming out everywhere. And then, of course, there's variations on this story as the time goes. Alucard in Symphony of the Night is actually Dracula's son, and he has to do the deed once instead of a Belmont. So there's many different variations on this story. It's not quite as simple as that, but that's the basic mechanism of all Castlevania lore. But remember, we need this to be a multi-user thing, and we need to explain that there's a ton of hunters around doing stuff. How do we do that? Well, here's my story. This time around, Castlevania pops back in, and Dracula wins. He kills the most recently trained Belmont, the chosen one to take him down. He actually defeats him, thus leaving him unchecked whatsoever. So he wins. Castlevania doesn't get knocked away, and his monsters and creatures, they swarm out into the world, and at this point it is up to just the average citizens to train, to become skilled, and to take on Dracula in droves, basically. Kind of a war, but not quite. Which brings our characters into it, because we're going to have a nice character creation. And I love a good character creation system. And this one will be really interesting because you're literally designing a pixel-based character. But before we get into the features, that's the story. All the other players, they are would-be hunters. They are the ones that have chosen themselves to take down Dracula eventually. And they have come to the lands of Castlevania and surrounding in order to slay Dracula. And they have to make a name for themselves in those lands, gaining experience, gaining loot, gaining questing to eventually take down the big man himself. So that's the crux of this. But how do we incorporate all of this into the game itself? Well, let's go into the feature pitch. So the feature pitch is real difficult on this one because I'm trying to do a multi-user thing, but I'm also trying to do 2D and pay homage to the Castlevania games before, especially Metroidvania. I mean, that term came from Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is the idea that it's just one big map, but you just can't access certain areas till you get certain things to access certain areas. With that in mind, you gotta kind of bring that feel here. So here we go. One thing that's awesome about this is that the data of this would be very small because it's pixel-based, because it's 2D style. So you would just make a huge 2D massive map. Of course, connected by different teleporters and whatnot, so that once you activate an area, once you get to an area, you can teleport back to the older areas and run them. Each different map would have like a basic level, kind of like Symphony of the Night, but just think on a 100x scale. So Symphony of the Night, when you're playing it, every time you move into another area, the enemies in that area are scaled to a certain level. So the first areas that you go into, they're very low level. Then as you get higher and higher in the castle, they get higher level and the monsters get bigger and scarier. This would be no different. Each different area that you would have some sort of level standard, and that's how you do your kind of grinding and your meat of the loot collection and experience gathering. Of course, your character creation system would have some classes, some delicious class-based stuff, and they would be based very heavily on Castlevania 3, one of my favorite classic Castlevania from the Nintendo area, in which it's not just a Belmont. He also has the original appearance of Alucard, but a sorceress with him, and a pirate. I think this would be great. Expound on those. We could get a pirate class. We could get a sorcerer class. Each class could have different abilities, but what's interesting about these is that you could actually build the abilities into the movement, so that certain areas can only be accessed with the pirate, but If the pirate accesses him, he can also bring his squad together. This is how you get the team play. This is how you get the grouping together. And that is a big thing in MMOs, is the social element, the partying up element. And it would be hard in a 2D thing to start with, but with that, hey, I need a pirate, I need a sorceress, and that's how we move through the level together. Another big feature I'd like to incorporate into this game is I don't exactly know what it's called, but I'm going to call it phantoming. It happens a lot in Phantasy Star Online 2. You can hire other people's characters, but as AIs. And I think that would be a big thing here. I think you would get into a clan, and then you could use other people's AIs in solo. So you don't necessarily need to play with other people to unlock those areas. Oh, I need a pirate thing. I'll hire the pirate, and they'll automatically be programmed to sniff out those areas that they need to go to. So it promotes party play, but it doesn't cut you off if you're a solo player. As this game advances, as you get more updates, it'll just add wings of the castle and different levels of the villages. I would have this map as one big castle and then certain different villages outside the castle, kind of like snaking the lands, but all one giant 2D map that you have to move through. I think what would be really cool if you could actually manage it is to eventually get some sort of crafting thing into this system, where you as a clan can actually craft your own 2D areas that connect to the massive map in some way, shape, or form. I think that there is endless possibilities for this, and you've never seen anything like it, an MMO that's 2D. I think this pays homage to the original Castlevania, while also moving it kind of forward into the future, and pressing those nostalgia buttons. But I am out of time. That's it. I'm only giving myself 10 to 12 minutes to do these things, and I've already gone over by a minute, so expect that. But yeah, what did you guys think? Do you think I nailed the Castlevania as an MMO pitch, the 2D Castlevania MMO pitch, or did it die right off the bat? Did I screw it up and fail? Comment below or go to our Discord. The link is in the description below. And just let me know. And anything you guys want to see me pitch, you can name anything. Genre, types of games, sequels, whatever. That's what I'm trying to look for here, and that's what I'm going to keep doing on this show and on this series. So hope you guys enjoyed this. We'll see what you guys think. Let me know again. And as usual, you can also contact us on Facebook at OldManGamingDH, on Twitter at OldManGaming9. You can join our Discord. Links in the description below. I already said that. Don't know why I said it again. As long as you keep watching and listen, we'll keep making them. Pitch or die, baby.